All right, folks. That's as much time as I could give everybody to log in. We got a full agenda today, so let's get started. My name is Adrian Ng, for those of you who haven't met me. I am the pre-sale solutions architect here at D&H Canada, responsible for anything Lenovo ISG, so anything server, storage, even some networking. Um, I put my slide on the screen right now. My shared box email is up there in the upper right-hand corner. You'll want to get in touch with me anytime you have an opportunity with server storage networking. I will do anything as little as getting you your costs, basically your D&H quote, uh, uh, your cost from D&H for the server build, to all the way back to, we work backwards in the process to building the configuration, deal registration, getting the bid pricing, applying all the discounts. I'll even talk to your customers for you if you don't have a big team and you're not comfortable carrying server-based opportunity conversations. I could help figure out what the customer requirements are and help you figure out what the server build should look like. I've been doing this for over a couple of decades, all the way back to the IBM era when IBM used to own this offering. So I'm very comfortable with the product line, the people, the process, all that kind of stuff. So anything that comes up, please engage me, and I'm sure you're going to be happy. I say that because you saw in the previous slide. I'll just quickly go back to it if anybody's just joined. We were awarded Lenovo's Distribution Partner of the Year again, 2 times in a row now, second year in a row. So thank you to all those of you that are on the phone. My teammates, my partners at Lenovo for helping out and recognizing that we are making a difference in the marketplace by helping our resellers and our customers with Lenovo ISG opportunities. Um, before we jump into the webinar, I have a couple more points to go through. Actually, let's talk about today's webinar first. So today we're talking about move up the stack with Lenovo and Microsoft Hyper-Converged solutions. So we're going to talk about how consolidating workloads and virtualizing on hyper-converged solutions is going to help your customers. If for some reason you want to hear more about other topics together, please reach out to me. I'll put my email back on the slide again here, and let me know. These sessions are for you. We don't take payment for airtime here, so anything about Lenovo servers and storage that you want to hear about, please let me know, and we can make that happen. We have these webinars once a quarter, so the next one will happen in 3 months' time or so. So if there's something else you want to hear about, please let me know. Today we have two very awesome speakers with us. We have Paul Santos from Lenovo. He's a channel solutions architect, as well as Phil Searles, who's also from Lenovo. He's a solution architect for global accounts at Lenovo. So before I turn the mic over to them, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping. We're taking questions throughout the webcast. So there's a question box on your screen. If you want to type in your question, only we will see the question. So when you type the question in, I'll take a look at them, and I'll either hold them till the end, or if it makes sense, I'll stop Paul and Phil and ask them during their session, during their segments, and we'll also have additional Q&A time at the end to get all the questions answered. What else? So I'll be doing that. I'll be looking over the Q&A, and then we'll get your questions answered for you. Okay. What else? Quick note about D&H if you haven't heard. Let me just do one quick slide here. One more. So we've been in business. D&H has been around since 1918. Started as a tire retreading company, and then just through many decades of transformation, grew into an end-to-end IT distribution business. We're 100% North American service. So what that means is every single partner gets a dedicated sales rep. That's always based in North America, not outsourced, not offshore, not anything like that. So when you reach out to us, a real live human being will get back to you. There's no, you don't open up a ticket, You don't get asked, hey, what's the ticket number that you opened, or it hasn't been 3 business days. None of that stuff, right? When you call me, I pick up, or when you email me, or when you message me on Teams, I answer you. So that's the difference in how D&H works. Aside from me, there's obviously your inside sales teams and your field sales reps and all the other vendor sales specialists that are out there on my team that will help you with whatever it is that you need help from distributor. And yeah, like I said, we got recognized as Lenovo's Distributor Partner of the Year for a second year in a row. So if you haven't been working with us, come try us out, right? Come see why we're 2 years in a row Lenovo's Distributor of the Year. With that said, I am going to skip some of my slides because of time, and we're going to have Paul, if you're ready, go through today's topic.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? I think I'm good.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Very good. All right, so, oops. Make sure I'm on the right slide. There we go. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Paul Santos. So today we'll be going through some of the ThinkAgile portfolio, and we're gonna focus a bit more on the Microsoft side of things with Phil. But before we talk about ThinkAgile, let's kind of ground ourselves, I guess, in what customers are really dealing with today in the enterprise. And this can also apply to mid-market and even edge. But we consistently hear these major challenges, and these days it's really around the first one here is around AI and innovation. AI is everywhere, and it's a daily part of our lives. And customers are under pressure to do something with AI, but the real challenge is in its execution. Like, how are they going to actually incorporate AI into their business? They don't want to build infrastructure from scratch or stitch together different platforms. They really want a kind of turnkey validated platform, something that has been validated and created before that can run their AI workloads. And as well alongside their traditional applications, which they still need to support. From a business perspective, they're really looking at speed to value, right? So they want to get this up and running without going through all the learning curves that are potentially out there for a new platform. This is where simplicity and pre-integration really become a huge differentiator, and that's what ThinkAgile helps bring to the picture here. The second challenge is around IT skill gap. This one comes up almost in every engagement. These days teams are smaller, we're asked to do more with less, expectations are higher, and skills like virtualization, automation, and AI are all kind of converging. So being proficient in those technologies these days is a big plus. So again, customers don't want that complex DIY architecture anymore. They want that type of solution that are easy to deploy and operate and don't require deep specialization in multiple infrastructure technologies, because not everybody's a network specialist or a storage specialist. There's a lot of generalists out there that you want to be able to utilize in managing these platforms. So this can bring additional operational costs, and the question becomes, how do we simplify IT without sacrificing in its capabilities, right? Is there a trade-off there? The last point here is security, security and sustainability. These are two priorities that are pretty much built into every IT decision these days. So from a security standpoint, customers do expect a full stack protection. So they're thinking about ransomware these days, compliance, supply chain trust, and sustainability is no longer optional. It's pretty much tied into the ESG goals of many corporations. They think about power consumption and data center efficiencies, and this means infrastructure does need to be designed up front with these requirements and not retrofitted later. So, with ThinkAgile, ThinkAgile from Lenovo is an engineered, integrated, validated solution that is there to simplify hybrid cloud adoption. That's kind of the main message behind the branding. with ThinkAgile, basically what we do is we take our ThinkSystem servers, which have been around for a number of years, but we specially integrate them with the right components and software to be able to fully be utilized in this hybrid type environment. So it allows any customers to run any app, connect any major cloud, and deliver those IT services from any location, whether it's edge or cloud. ThinkAgile enables simplicity, that is in its design. We do have lifecycle operations and integrations with leading cloud platforms from platforms like VMware, Nutanix, and Microsoft. And this enables flexibility, scalability, and reduced total cost of ownership. So ThinkAgile v4, which is the current version, is the platform that simplifies your hybrid cloud infrastructure. So how does Lenovo solve these IT challenges? So the ThinkAgile v4 portfolio is really about choice, simplicity, and alignment with the customer's preferred ecosystem. It's all delivered as a pre-integrated, validated solution. What's important here is that Lenovo is not really forcing you to a single software stack. You have the flexibility to standardize on whether it's Nutanix or Microsoft or VMware or something else, while getting the same Lenovo engineered lifecycle management and reliability with the solution. So this becomes less about picking hardware and more about choosing the right operational model. So let's quickly walk through each of these. So starting on the left with our HX series, this is our Nutanix-based hyper-converged infrastructure platform. So it's a great fit for customers looking for simplicity, unified management across compute, storage, and virtualization. Increasingly, it's becoming more and more relevant, especially in the AI-ready infrastructure, especially with solutions that we have, or turnkey deployment solutions, like a product we have called GPT in a box. This resonates with customers who really want a true appliance with minimal complexity. So next is our MX series, which Phil will be spending most of the time covering later. This is built on Microsoft Azure Stack HCI, or Azure Local is the new name, as well as Windows Server Data Center. So this is ideal for customers who are already invested in the Microsoft ecosystem. It extends Azure services on-prem while keeping a consistent hybrid cloud model. So ThinkAgile MX is really about Azure consistency and hybrid integration. With VX, the next one there, this is our VMware-based offering. So it's really designed for customers standardizing or already using VMware Cloud Foundation. So it enables full private and hybrid cloud with automation and lifecycle management. So more importantly, it's about modernizing existing VMware environments without disruption. So the ThinkAgile VX is specifically engineered, and all the components are on the hardware compatibility list for the VMware environment. So there's really no surprises when this platform arrives. The last one here, which is fairly new, is the FX series. So this is about flexibility and choice across supported HCI stacks. So it enables seamless conversion between platforms. So the difference is if you go with an HX series, you're pretty much committing that you're sticking with Nutanix in that case. With FX, you can convert between different platforms. I'll cover a little bit more detail in the next slide, but it delivers that same appliance-like simplicity, but with more flexibility in the software alignment. Okay, next slide. So a bit more about the FX series. So we're the only HCI vendor that allows this sort of functionality, the ability to convert and use the same hardware platform on a different software stack, a different hyper-converged software stack. So this is great for customers who want to future-proof their platform decision, but keep their options open, right? So the FX with multi-vendor HCI, this does allow customers to choose a platform that fits their needs today. And later on, if they decide their needs have changed, they can switch to a different HCI software vendor. And so what it's providing is really no vendor lock-in and no disruptions. So for example, if today you're still using VMware, but your company has decided that at a later date, maybe a year from now, you've committed to change to a different stack, whether it's Nutanix or Microsoft or something else. This effortless conversion allows customers the ability to convert their existing infrastructure and be able to transition workloads safely and quickly using Lenovo's proven tools and services. So again, FX series really maintains that appliance-grade simplicity using the same hardware stack in this case. So very little disruption. And by the way, Microsoft support, although it's listed on the chart there, it is coming. It's not there today. I believe it's coming next month. Phil can correct me on that later. But at the time of me presenting this, it's Nutanix and VMware offering with Nutanix to come. Okay. All right, so maybe you've heard of Lenovo Neptune cooling technologies. So this is where Lenovo really starts to differentiate in the market. So we're not just talking about another HCI platform. This is the industry's first liquid-cooled hyper-converged appliance powered by Lenovo Neptune technologies. So first is the energy savings. With direct liquid cooling, we can deliver up to 25% energy savings. And the second is performance here. So liquid cooling enables higher sustained performance, especially with GPU and AI heavy workloads. And the third here is application consolidation. So because you can handle higher density and more efficient cooling, customers can run more workloads in less space. So this is how Lenovo is helping customers future-proof their infrastructure while addressing both their AI demands and their sustainability goals. All right, and this is going to be my last slide before I turn over to Phil. So what is the right HCI platform or virtualization platform to standardize for my customer? So this is one of the most common conversations we're having with customers these days. There really is no single right answer here. It really depends on where the customer is today and where they want to go. So what Lenovo does differently is we don't force that decision, as we support all the major platforms, and we pair it with the right ThinkAgile or ThinkSystem Foundation hardware platform to support that. So this allows customers to choose based on the business needs and not vendor lock-in. So starting with VMware there, it's still the most established enterprise platform, but we're seeing that change these days, especially with the licensing changes that they've done over the last couple of years. I know these days it's a 72 core minimum from a licensing requirements, whether you use it or not. But it is still best suited for large enterprises and mission critical workloads, and customers that are on it, will probably stay on it if nothing else kind of offers what they currently use. Next one there is Microsoft. So a natural fit for customers who are already invested in the Windows Server and Azure Cloud ecosystem. It does deliver a strong hybrid cloud integration, very compelling from a cost and licensing efficiency standpoint, especially with the Windows Server Data Center Edition, which gives you kind of that unlimited virtual machine capability. We're seeing a wider adoption around Microsoft Hyper-V through Windows Server 2025, as well as Azure Local. This option is really, it's less about virtualization alone, but more about extending Azure on-prem. Then we have Nutanix, so not always a less expensive option, but their focus is on simplicity, automation, and operational efficiency. So everything is integrated into a single pane of glass or single management plane using something called Prism. And it's a strong choice for customers looking to reduce IT complexity and IT overhead. Then finally, we have our open source KVM-based platforms like Proxmox, for example. It's not the only one out there that use KVM-based virtualization engines, but it's a very attractive and especially for cost-conscious environments. Could be labs, could be edge use cases. We have many customers using this in production. Does typically require more in-house expertise and integration effort. Having Linux skills is definitely a big plus here. We're seeing a large interest in open source virtualization solutions like Proxmox, which have no direct software licensing per se, but even though you're not paying for the software licenses, you'll probably want to have an active support subscription for production environments, which are quite reasonable. So with that, I will turn it over to Phil, who will go more in depth on the ThinkAgile MX series and Microsoft software infrastructure.
Thank you, Paul. That was a very good, enlightening description of our ThinkAgile offerings. I'm here to talk about Microsoft's SDI solution on ThinkAgile MX. Typically, this section is very heavily focused on Azure Local, and this one will continue that trend to a greater extent. But it's important to remember that while Azure Local is the current technology leading hybrid cloud platform solution, which addresses many customers' hybrid cloud requirements, there are customers who are not there yet or don't have the business need to be there yet and are looking for solutions which are more traditional and still current in technical capabilities and technology functions. And MX is one of those platforms which provides two solutions or two similar solutions for the same environment. And the MX hardware offering is designed to support that structure. So what I'll be doing within the session is trying to cover a couple of key things. One, describing the two solutions, Windows Server versus Azure Local, and where the pros and cons and benefits of each are and how they apply. The MX hardware offering set and its capabilities, and some new features for the Azure Local environment, which further increases viability and usability for customers in their IT environments. So first, let's start with the easy part, hardware. Hardware is the easiest part of this business in many respects, but this is a pictorial of the MX portfolio. The key thing being the portfolio is here to try and address the various server-based deployment technologies required for most customer environments. So from the left there, the MX455 v3 and non-data center edge server, which is fully supported as an Azure Local node or a Windows Server node, either one. Very capable, very current CPU, good amount of memory, lots of storage. So a very functional edge server device for any remote office environment that or edge requirement that may come up. We then have the MX630 v4 and the MX650 v4, which are our dual processor Intel-based rack server platforms, which are based off the SR630, 650 equivalents. These are the data center, workhorses for Azure Local and most of the other ThinkAgile solutions and many other SR type environments. Very functional, very scalable, very functional, and both also offering the Neptune water-cooled options as well. So you can water cool these if you need to. And then we have on the top right-hand corner the MX650A v4. And once again, it's a dual proc Intel platform, but the key thing here is it's meant to support dense GPU. Whereas the 650 v4 does support GPU as well. The 650A will support single and dual wide GPUs, and will even support a GPU such as the RTX 6000 BSE. It'll support two of those in this case, but those are both 600 plus watt GPUs, and very a key part of most AI and inference engine technologies today. So a very powerful GPU platform to go along with all the other platforms in this family. Once again, all of these platforms support Azure Local and all the feature function capability of Azure Local as a hybrid cloud platform. They also support Windows Server 2025 as a failover cluster environment with all the Windows Server functions to a greater degree. The one limiting factor from a hardware point of view, if you're looking at Windows Server, is you are limited by the features and options you can install as part of the hardware if you want to use Windows Server. The reason is this, and we'll cover this again in the next slide. The platform is certified to run both solutions. So if you were in an environment today where you needed to run Windows Server today, but in 2 years wanted to run Azure Local, if you started on an MX platform of Windows Server, you can deploy Azure Local on the same platform. And going back the other way too. So it is limited on its hardware flexibility and options primarily based upon the certification for Azure Local on this platform as well, okay? But it does give you customers flexibility in where they start and how they move forward with these technology changes. This next chart I've built as a quasi-decision tree to kind of counterbalance Azure Local opportunities versus Windows Server. As I said at the beginning, there's a lot of discussion about Azure Local because it is such an exciting new platform for customers to leverage, to have a truly hybrid Azure ecosystem platform to run workloads as required on-prem. But by the same token, there are customers who aren't needing to do that, or not in the position to do that, or have a unique business requirement where they need a more traditional virtualization platform, but still very current and very functional. And that's where the Windows Server data center environment comes into play. I'm not going through this whole chart in detail. You can read this and look at this after the fact. But the primary things to remember are Azure Local is an Azure hybrid cloud managed solution. So the customer will actually manage this on-prem cluster through their Azure portal. They'll use the Azure Arc toolings within Azure to execute control of the cluster, upgrades of the cluster, workload starting, ending, movement, all these normal things which we've done through traditional on-prem management technologies is now happening as part of the customer's Azure portal interaction and GUI. So, and this is one of the key ways it becomes a hybrid platform, because now the customer, through one pane of glass, isn't just managing their on-prem hardware cluster, it's also managing their cloud infrastructure as well, using the same or very similar methodologies, techniques, and terminology and methodologies to keep all that as consistent as possible. So for those customers who are fully into Azure, may need to deploy some of their Azure workload on-prem to optimize their business cost models, or have unique workloads that can't go into the cloud. This allows them to maintain a Azure-centric management environment and leverage on-prem hardware for a speed, performance, latency, potentially security, and management capabilities. The other side is for Windows Server, and that's typically for those customers who are looking for traditional virtualization using Windows Server failover cluster, which is a well-known and well-understood and supported technology for the past 20 years, using all the standard things you can do with the Windows Server, all the feature function capability. From a hyper-converged infrastructure point of view, they both support Storage Spaces Direct, which is the new virtualization storage pooling technology for these hybrid clusters. It supports, they both support SAN technology. Windows Server supports a number of other storage capabilities as well. And Azure Local is coming to add things as they go forward. Other than the software support, they are both very similar functionally from a hypervisor point of view. It's all a question of what fits the business model requirements. Once again, with using a common platform with ThinkAgile MX, the ability to transition from one to the other, or having just a consistent hardware platform to start with, provides great opportunities for customers to transition or plan or be more strategic in how they're leveraging hardware acquisitions. Okay, one other thing I'll mention here, apart from management of some of the storage stuff and the hardware construct, the method these two platforms are licensed differs. So everybody probably has a vague idea of how Windows Server is licensed. That does not change whether it's running on an MX platform or an SR platform. It's core-based licensing with all the normal T's and C's of everything to do with Windows Server licensing. So that should be fairly commonly understood. Azure Local has various licensing methodologies depending upon what the customer needs to do and how they plan to use and drive their cluster. The base licensing option for Azure Local is what they call pay-as-you-go or subscription-based. So it's a fixed cost per core per month. And depending upon what additional Azure hybrid services you add to this cluster, there may be additional costs involved with this kind of environment. There are also some more persistent or permanent licensing options, which look a lot more like how you'd license Windows Server. It depends on how you're using it, how it's being deployed, and the functional set you're looking for as to how they apply and how they fit, okay? Just be aware that there is a different structure for licensing Azure Local than Windows Server. They both have their sweet spots. They both have their opportunities. They both have some challenges. In either case, both of them are reasonably cost effective given the other options available in the industry today. So it is a very cost competitive solution no matter which way you go. From a pictorial point of view, Azure Local, once again, is based on MX. It supports all the virtualization technologies that you would see traditionally with a virtualization platform, plus things like Azure Virtual Desktop, which is a hybrid VDI technology, which is very popular out there. Even doing things like taking Microsoft 365 apps, which are typically hosted and run in the Azure cloud, can actually be onboarded on-prem if customers have need to do that. It's also very tightly integrated with the Azure AI Foundry tool, so you can build AI technologies and workloads which can run in the Azure cloud and or on the MX platform under Azure Local. And it can also leverage Copilot functions as well. And the list of things that are being supported and groomed and positioned on top of Azure Local continues to grow. This is the strategic on-prem Azure ecosystem platform for Microsoft, right? The only other thing you may see in this regard is what they are currently calling something to the effect of Azure Linux, which will be for small, tiny IoT container type environments that are tied into Azure. But once again, Microsoft's building a IT ecosystem here, of which Azure Local is a fundamental key part for on-prem solutions. As we said, Microsoft Windows Server is still a valid option as well. Once again, its primary function is to be a hypervisor to support workloads, Windows, Linux VMs, Kubernetes as part of the Azure service. You can run a Kubernetes service on here as well. You can enable Windows Server to an Azure portal if you wish. There are Azure Arc connectors to connect the server platform, some workloads, Kubernetes, and various other things. So you can do Azure enablement of the server platform if you wish, but it's by no means the level or extent of the hybrid integration you can do with Azure Cloud, public cloud, with Azure Local compared to this. They are two different things. But once again, if there is a desire to move to Azure Local from this kind of environment, that is a feasible thing to do from a hardware point of view and not overly problematic from a software point of view. Okay, next. So MX, we'll go through some of the detail as well, but once again, MX, like all the ThinkAgile platforms, is meant to be a turnkey, easy, low effort deployment methodology. So the hardware is tuned to only use technology that the ISV, in this case, Microsoft Azure Local, supports. All these environments are tested on the hardware and every version of Azure Local as it comes out. Azure Local is an evergreen OS base or hypervisor base, so it will continue to evolve under the whatever licensing scheme you work on. and it continues to be supported from Lenovo in the same way. From a update management point of view, the level of hybrid integration is once again very vivid here, insofar as we're typically always looked at managing hardware via hardware management tools, in our case, things like xClarity, and you would do the ISV or the hypervisor OS environment via OS management tools. Azure Local today, under the Premier offering, which is what we provide our customers, uses what's called SBE, Solution Builder Extensions, as part of the Azure Update Manager. So all updates, not just OS and drivers, but firmware and BIOS, are executed, controlled, and coordinated from the Azure portal's Update Manager facility. So Azure Update Manager now supports the management and maintenance of not only all their cloud assets, but their on-prem assets under Azure Local support, making it far easier to manage and coordinate all these activities. Rapid deployment, once again, these boxes come prepped and ready to be deployed. The deployment process for Azure Local is a streamlined process where once the machines arrive and they're plugged in and cabled, they are registered into the customer's Azure portal, and then the deployment happens from the Azure portal to this cluster to make it a valid Azure cluster. Other than some basic information to get all this started, it is basically let the tools do their job, and you'll have a running cluster after a couple hours of deployment and customization work by the Azure cloud portal. Also, from a support point of view, we do provide a single point of support, both hardware and software, from our support structure. We work cooperatively with Microsoft to do Microsoft support in the background, and if we can't do it within our level 1, level 2 support, we will feed it off over to Microsoft to handle the level 3 code change requirements. So once again, fully supported, integrated, top of the line Premier service there. And then finally, from a management point of view, as I've said, with MX and Azure Local, it is fully unified into the Azure portal under Azure Arc and Azure Update Manager. So it's all on the Azure portal for the customer with Azure Local. With Windows Server, all the Azure stuff will be done through the customer's Azure portal as whatever they're doing. The hardware itself, though, is managed and controlled using traditional Windows Server management applications. Admin Center, MMCs, Windows Server Failover Cluster Manager, and then xClarity one for the hardware support, management, and control. So based on where you're going, both are supported. If it's Windows Server, it's the traditional methodologies. If it's Azure Local, it's integrated with Azure. So that's kind of the platform as a whole. As I said, there are some new things coming out. One of the biggest is disaggregated storage. Since the inception of HCI on the Microsoft platform, HCI solutions were solely hyper-converged, software-defined storage in the server. So it's onboard storage virtualization. So if you had a SAN, you could not directly connect your SANs to a hyper-converged cluster because it just caused too much confusion at that point. However, there are lots of good business reasons to support disaggregated storage, even in a hyper-converged solution. So Microsoft has recently completed and GA'd the support of disaggregated storage for Azure Local, which is of interest here. So basically what this says is if you have a or an Azure Local cluster, by installing fiber channel HBAs in those nodes, you'll now be able to support the connection of specific fiber channel SAN technologies, devices, as another tier of the common shared storage pool under Storage Spaces Direct. So you will see within the storage pool, the CSV, the common shared volume pool, not only your onboard hyper-converged Storage Spaces Direct volumes, but you'll also see the SAN volumes you've created on your SAN storage device. From a Lenovo point of view, we specifically support our ThinkSystem DS series, DM series, and DG series. For the last two, we support them from a fiber channel SAN functionality point of view. Once again, this is fiber channel SAN today. There is work going on right now to also support iSCSI SAN, but that is not there or available yet today. From a pictorial point of view, just quickly, this is a layout of how a typical hyper-converged structure works. So you have a cluster of nodes. For MX or Azure Local, that's 1 to 16 nodes. It creates a storage pool containing all the volumes, all the disks in all those nodes in the cluster, and you create virtual volumes within that pool, within that common shared volume pool. When you execute disaggregated solutions, there are two ways to do this. One is hybrid disaggregated, which means I maintain the existing onboard pool, the store spaces, internal disk pool of volumes, but by adding the HBA and going through a fiber channel switch to a SAN device, I now enable access to all the LUNs in that SAN storage device or SAN storage devices. So this gives me the best of both worlds. I can do super high performance with the onboard storage pool, and I can deal with performant and legacy and archival storage via SAN over the SAN side, the fiber channel SAN side. So it allows you to mix and integrate this into existing environments far easier and better than when it's just HCI alone. The other option that is provided with this is to do a fully disaggregated solution, which means fundamentally the Azure local nodes only run compute and memory. All the pooled storage is done via SAN attached storage. So once again, you still need the HBAs, you still need the fiber channel switch and the SAN, but you'll notice here there is no onboard storage spaces direct virtual volumes. So this is SAN only. The other thing that happens with this, because of the lack of the internode storage synchronization required, you can now scale this cluster, which was 1 to 16 nodes with the hyper-converged storage solution, to 1 to 64 nodes if it is SAN only. Okay. One other last comment here. To use the disaggregated storage technology, there is additional licensing cost to support this. Depending on which way you license the solution, depends what the cost is, but there is a cost to do this. It is beyond the standard Azure local license costs. So where you need this, you can use it. It's just additional cost to support it. Where you don't need it, you're not incurring that cost if you don't need it. So it provides the flexibility for customers to go either way. Last thing I want to go through quickly is service offerings, just so you're aware, you probably already know this. MX ThinkAgile does all come with Premier support. Premier support has things like single point, end-to-end case management, all the things you see with Premier support. We do have professional services pre-made for the MX solution, whether it's Azure Local or Windows Server. They include hardware installation and deployment services. If the customer of yours is doing their first Azure Local deployment, unless they have existing skill with doing this and managing this, I would recommend they get deployment services from somebody at least the first time. It is different to how they've done things traditionally. And it's always good to have somebody else who's done it before go through it the first time, at least. And then from a support point of view, we have our standard support functions and hours, so they're all readily available. Lastly, for those customers who may have a more complicated environment they want to try and resolve, we do have our TrueScale service offering. One, we can build within this all kinds of custom services or business partner or third-party services to meet requirements for a customer. along with doing any required financial, creative financial things as required to allow the customer to effectively support, implement, and manage this infrastructure. And this applies to any of our ThinkAgile solutions or non-ThinkAgile solutions, but it does apply here. So it is an option to consider as you're talking with customers or partners to look at how this can work. And that's it. Adrian, back to you for questions.
Yeah, no, that was great. So one question that came in, I think just worth just clarifying. The regular servers are still there, right? Like this is not replacing anything. This is in addition, right? This is why the title of this this webinar is moving up the stack, right? Yep. If they wanted to continue selling the regular SR servers, they could still do that, to sell them and buy them and use those. But these MXs are sort of one level up from there, where it's pre-validated and certified, and more white glove service and more support integration with Microsoft. Is that kind of correct?
So fundamentally, yes, but to be clear, the entire SR, SE, all the other lines, the core Think system line of technology and portfolio is still there, is still viable. When you get to ThinkAgile, there are alignments from an ISV point of view to the ThinkAgile offering. So for instance, with Azure Local, if you want to run Azure Local with Lenovo hardware, it has to be an MX server. You can't run Azure Local on just anything. Now, 10 years ago when they first started, yes, you could. It was called Azure Stack HCI back there. And yes, you could run on any server that you configured properly. Today, you cannot. One of the key reasons why for Azure Local that you cannot do that is this SBE, Azure Update Manager Controlled Maintenance. So as these servers are registered with the tenant, with the customer's Azure tenant portal, the machine type is provided to Update Manager in Azure. That machine type tells Update Manager what PTFs, what UEFI code levels, what BIOS levels are required for that machine type for Azure Local at any given release level. So Azure Update Manager can properly coordinate and time both OS driver and hardware code updates, okay? If you gave it a standard SR machine type, it wouldn't be able to support it, wouldn't know what to do with it. So from an Azure Local point of view, you have to run on MX. From a Windows Server point of view, you can run on MX, you can run on SR, right? It's a bit like VX. If you're not running vSAN, you can run on any SR around. If you're running a vSAN-based or a VCF-based environment, it should really be on VX because of all the hardware limitations and control points to support that properly.
Perfect, thank you. Another question. Actually, before I get to the second question, guys, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A, okay? We've got about 5-10 minutes left so that we can cover any questions that you have. And Phil, the other question was with the SAN. So now we are able to attach a SAN to Hyper-Converged solution. The whole point, I recall, when HCI first came out was that there would be no SAN, and then you would have the storage sort of separated in all the different nodes, and then they kind of do their magic, and then that's how that works. Now we're able to do that and attach a SAN. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, so you can do just the Hyper-Converged stuff. You can do Hyper-Converged and SAN, or you can do just SAN. Don't do Hyper-Converged at all. So, and there are different business reasons to do each one of these. The one comment is it's not just any SAN for Azure Local. Once again, the challenge isn't the SAN part, right? SAN is a SAN is a SAN. Fiber channel protocols are all the same. It's all great. The challenge is we need the Azure portal through Azure Arc to manage and control these LUNs on a SAN. So there is additional work required for Azure Local to properly manage, control, and deal with the data going from HCI or to SAN, and how those volumes are treated and how they are properly shared and not other issues like that. So there are specific SANs that are supported and enabled for Azure Local. On the chart where we go through that option, you will see a hyperlink to the Windows or the Microsoft support page, which has the list of all SANs that are supported for Azure Local. So I highlight our Lenovo SAN items. This is the Lenovo pitch, so I'm going to talk about Lenovo. But if you have a other manufacturer SAN, it may be part of this support list. If it is, it can just be plugged in via the HBAs we support for our nodes.
I noticed the DE wasn't part of that list.
Correct. Once again, DE is a fiber channel SAN. I understand that. The supportability from a software management point of view is not supported. So DE runs different code, not one. So DS, DG, and DM run ONTAP. So Azure Local knows how to talk to ONTAP. DE doesn't run ONTAP. So because of that, there wasn't the desire to go support that as an option. Once again, every time you go through a different SAN management or operational software platform, it takes a lot of work to develop the support the support, and manage it ongoing, right? So they're not going to do everybody's SAN just because there's too many things there to support. They're looking for more mainstream, high volume, and the future of those SAN operational software requirements.
Yeah, that makes sense, because from a cloud managed standpoint, the whole point was that they would do most of the management, or maybe even almost all of the management, right?
Yep.
And for us to sort of force them to kind of go not backwards, but like to do it the other way, they're going to want to have more control over the process and the ability to update and maintain and all that kind of stuff.
And again, once again, if you did the same kind of thing with Windows Server failover cluster, right? Because you can do HCI and SAN with Windows Server as well, right? And in the SAN, in that case, because the SAN is managed manually by the IT department, you can run DE, DS, whatever, and whoever SAN you want, because as long as that's supported by Windows Server, you're good. And there's a huge list of SANs supported by Windows Server. So once again, picking which solution best fits a customer's need is more than, it's not just, are you strategic Azure cloud or not? It's what else do you need to do, right? So maybe you start with Windows Server, then go to Azure Local later on when the rest of the infrastructure aligns with what Azure Local is doing. If you see the need to go to Azure Portal at that point in time, right? Or if you're ready today, maybe you want to start there and you start with Azure Local. So it's all just evaluating what each option can do, how it best fits the customer, and then where they want to go in the future to make sure you're picking the right options from that perspective.
Perfect. Thanks, Phil. And also thanks to Paul for taking us through this ThinkAgile sort of portfolio and how the different offerings we have could run on different hypervisors like Nutanix, on VMware, on Hyper-V, and with Hyper-V you could choose between Windows Server or Azure Local. We learned what some customer challenges are and how they're different from before, and how Lenovo ThinkAgile Hyper-Converged solutions can help address those challenges with their integrated, pre-validated designs. I don't see any other questions, so guys, remember you'll receive a link to the webcast that you can replay this webinar on demand for yourself, or if your teammates who couldn't make the call. You could also download the presentation as a PDF under the resources module on your screen. And if you have any questions, let me put my slide back up so you have my email address on right there. And if you have any questions, opportunities, right? If you think you have a customer that's on VMware right now that you think that could could help them get off of VMware by running one of these HXs or MXs, please reach out to me. My email address is on the upper right-hand corner there, as well as any other questions or suggestions for future webinars that you might have. We recently ran a bootcamp in Montreal for resellers to get certified on Lenovo ISG. We had tremendous feedback and attendance, so we're going to be looking to run one on the West Coast sometime later this year. So look out for those sign-up sheets when they come out in a couple months, or in a couple months time. I think that was it. That was all that I had. No more questions. So, okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for attending this webinar. Until we meet again the next time. Thank you.